Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, today my guest is Shahara Wright, a professional speaker, CEO, business attorney, professor, and community leader and author. This lady has so much information, so much power. She is living the billionaire lifestyle. She's been the owner and the lead attorney of the Wright Firm, PLLC, for over 15 years. Shahara provides small and medium-sized companies with legal and business strategies, including entity formation, mergers and acquisitions, investor packages, and contract. Now, I met her during the podcast convention, and I could not wait to get her on the show. So stay tuned and listen up. And if you need her help, you know where to find her. And you can also get her book on Amazon, which we will talk about during the show. So stay tuned. Hey, Sarah, how you doing today?
I'm fine.
I want to thank you so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast because, first of all, I got you on a Saturday, and that is family day when you're usually running and doing all the things from the week. But, I want to ask you, what made you want to write a book, or how did you feel the need to write a book?
It wasn't so much a need as much as I was transitioning from focusing primarily on my law firm to starting to do more consulting and training with entrepreneurs and business owners. So I felt like in order to really get my point across, I needed to write a book to really give the real examples of what I was really talking about, because I felt like I couldn't really do that just by me saying it. I had to show it as well.
Why didn't you go with the model of having like workshops and things like that? Because you get a little bit more direct influence versus writing a book, or did you plan to work them in tandem?
I planned on working them in tandem. I mean, the book came first, and the book actually took a lot longer than I anticipated. Writing it wasn't the hard part, but, after when you do a book, trying to get the editing and the layout and the cover and all of that kind of took a long time. So that took a lot longer than I expected it. So really the workshops and things like that were supposed to happen. But what I was finding was, people, because of the nature of what I do with business owners, a lot of business owners don't want all of their information out, in the open. They don't really want to talk about their issues and problems in front of other business owners. So I was finding that the workshops really weren't working the way that I had anticipated. So I really went to more on-demand type things, and then in consultations, one-on-one consultations. And that seemed to be more what business owners were craving than, group workshops.
Did you ever think about maybe doing like a mastermind where you got people who had like issues, and I understand that you're dealing with sometimes legalities, and that's very private, whether it be a company or a person. But did you think maybe a mastermind where you could get these people together and so they could see the real examples of how things work?
I never really considered doing a mastermind. A couple of people asked me about it, but I never really considered doing a mastermind. If I do one, it'll probably be kind of years down the line. I don't really see myself doing it anytime soon because I feel like I'm more of an implementer, and I'm always ready to hit the ground running and go. And so when people are telling me that they have this thing or that thing, I'm not really the person to go, well, did you think about that? Maybe you should do this. And you come back to me and tell me, oh, I couldn't or whatever. I'm kind of like, okay, we need to do A, B, C, D, and E, and let's go. Let's hit it. And so mastermind doesn't really work that well for me in that concept.
So when I talked to you, when I first met you, I was talking about making a company underneath my parent company, making a sub company, and you got deep in it real quick. Like, well, do you want to do this? And then blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, whoa, hey, ho. I was like,
yes.
I was like, this is somebody I need to have near me constantly. Do you find that people are very ignorant on the law and the language of the law as applied to themselves?
Well, I wouldn't use the word ignorant. I mean, I think we all have our strengths and weaknesses, right? I mean, I am not tech savvy by any means, at all. So, I mean, you could be talking to me about something and my eyeballs will start rolling all over my head and I have no idea what you're saying to me, All I want to know is, does it work, And so I find that to be true with a lot of, business owners that may not have a legal background, that, they just want to know, what should I do? But for me, I don't look at it as the law is not black and white and business isn't black and white, right? I mean, there's all kinds of variables, ifs, ands, and buts to anything that you do. So I always take the approach with my clients to say, okay, where is it that you're trying to go in the next 5 years? What are you trying to do? And when we understand that, then we can put the things in place to get you there. And that, is all about strategizing and understanding what you're trying to do to get there. And that applies to legal issues, it applies to management issues, marketing issues, financial issues, all of that stuff matters with where you're trying to be in the next 5 years.
Hey, can you touch upon, these are your strategies, the 4 most important strategies small businesses need to survive?
Well, I'm probably not going to answer your question, but I'm going to, okay? I know people like formulas and people like simplicities, but this is what I say. In business, you have to think a lot about big issues. And so, my book, From Entrepreneur to CEO, I try to get business owners to think in the big scheme of things, right? Instead of just focusing on the small little, I've got to put this fire out this week and then another fire next week, try to keep it so that all these fires aren't popping up all the time. So there's 4 main strategies that any business is going to have to deal with, which is, you're going to have to deal with legal strategies. You have to deal with management strategies, financial strategies, marketing strategies, right? These are big concepts that everybody has to deal with. So then what you do is you break those down and you say, okay, which of these things do I need to focus on for the time being? And which of the ones are going to be necessary in the long run? And if you consider all of those things, right, they're going to intertwine in between each other at one point or another, then you can strategize about how you're going to get from point A to point B and look at all of those things at the same time and say, okay, I need marketing, but in marketing, I may need to have, certain contracts to have releases on my, intellectual property. I may need to have contracts with the people that work for me. I may need to hire people to make sure that my marketing works well. So all of those things come together. They're not separate and apart.
So when you're dealing with business owners, and this term has been coming up a great deal since I met you, which is solopreneur, do you find that you have entrepreneurs who are working quite often on from their own little circle and outreaching to other people and need legal advice or need a roadmap to help them navigate their way forward?
Well, I'll tell you, I hate the term solopreneur. I don't like the mixture of something and preneur, and really I don't like it because we're not meant to be solo. A business is not meant to be operated within the confines of one individual person. Then all you are is what we call self-employed, meaning you employ yourself, but you're not a business owner. And I think that concept, it sounds great, and it's a nice marketing tool, but it doesn't mean anything in the business world because you're not meant to be isolated. As a business, you're supposed to be affecting the economy. You're supposed to be drivers of the economy, hiring, affecting the local communities, buying and selling, within your community, and that helps upbring it. If you're a solopreneur just within yourself, then you're doing nothing for the economy. And therefore, what's the purpose? So I don't really like that term. I think that, it's not, I don't look at myself as just saying, okay, I'm just, here to give you legal advice and that's it. That's not really how I perceive what I do. I perceive what I do as someone who understands business as a whole, and I have the legal background to help you navigate through some of those landmines. everybody's at a different level in terms of what they can afford or cannot afford. But regardless of whether or not you feel like, I can afford an attorney or I can't afford an attorney, there's enough information out there. There's enough ways to get information that you can educate yourself about what you need to do to be a better business owner and be a better person that's in your community that's affecting different drivers of the economy.
And is your jurisdiction strictly in Texas, or do you have outreach in other states as well?
So in terms of my law practice, I'm licensed in the state of Texas. Now, there's some things I can do outside of Texas, which is trademarks and copyrights. A lot of formation things and stuff like that I can do. I have clients all over, not just Texas, but I also do business consulting, and so the consulting that I do, I deal with clients all over as well. So it really depends what people are hiring me for. Oh, there you are. And whether or not they, want to, how they want to utilize me. But I have clients in the United States, and I do all kinds of work for them.
Now, we're going to get away from all this stuff real quick, and I'm going to ask you about your journey, because there may be someone that you can literally inspire to be where you are. How did you ascertain or come to be and say, I want to be an attorney, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a barrister?
It's funny because when people ask me that, I'm not embarrassed, but I think people think I'm weird, which is... I decided I wanted to be an attorney when I was 8. And so, I always get that reaction. My mom was like, you like to argue. You're always arguing with me. You always think you're right, and maybe this is the way you should go. And I started, learning more, doing the young lawyer things. And I actually enjoyed, the profession. So when I went to college, I had in mind that I was going to law school. I knew that was what I was going to do. What I didn't know was that I was going to be dealing with businesses. I thought I was going to be doing criminal law. And I realized I hated it and I wasn't interested. And I took a class in law school called transactional practice, and I loved it. I loved everything about the contracts. I loved the whole concept of it, and business formations. And so when I came out of law school, I knew that was what I wanted to do. But it kind of was an evolution of kind of understanding who I was and what I enjoyed before I made the decision about what type of law I was going to practice.
What school did you attend?
I went to undergrad at Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. And then I went to law school at Texas Tech School of Law. Oh,
you're a Texan through and through, huh?
I'm born and raised.
So that Southern hospitality.
That's right.
So if someone who doesn't know you, if you're your elevator speech and they look at you and say, what are you doing? How can you help me? Where would that start? Because you offer a lot of things. You offer a lot of value. I mean, just speaking with you face to face, I saw that right away.
Thank you. So here it is. I tell them, say, hi, my name is Shahara Wright. I'm a business law attorney and business strategist. I'm kind of like an orchestra conductor. I bring all the parts of your business together to make a perfect harmony. And that's what I tell people. That's my elevator speech right there, to see that I'm not just about one little piece of your business. I'm not saying that I do everything, but what I am capable of doing is understanding the whole and figuring out what pieces need to be brought together to make it work.
So I'm going to ask this question because a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people hear what an attorney costs per hour, but they don't know why it costs so much an hour. Can you explain some of that for the audience?
I think it depends on what it is that your expectations are. When I was a brand new attorney and I just started out, I was charging $75 an hour, right? But you can't live off of that. And it may sound like, oh, that's, reasonable, I can do that. But as I was new, I didn't know. So, it would take me probably really a long time to, figure my way through some things. So my clients ended up paying probably more because I was trying to figure some things out. Now I'm at the point where I'm, been practicing almost 20 years. And at this point, I know a lot more than I did, when I first started. So the knowledge level is there, and my rate is, I feel, commiserate with my knowledge level, probably a little less, because I know attorneys that charge way more than I do. So, and we're probably about the same. So it's there. So then you take that into account. So then it doesn't take me as long to get to where I need to go. You have the knowledge. Then the next part of that, is of course the business side of it, which is, when I'm working, this is for me to work every hour. That's what I'm earning, right? So when I'm working, I'm getting paid just to do that work. It doesn't count for my administrative costs, my filing, my billing, and all of that kind of stuff that has to be brought into it. So when I'm not working on Saturday, I'm not getting paid, right? And if I take a vacation, I'm not getting paid. If I go somewhere and speak, I'm not getting paid. Those times I'm not getting paid. So if you think about how it means to bill hourly, that's what your life is, right? You have to work for every dollar that you're getting every hour. So just that concept, I think, is important for people to understand.
Awesome. And one of the things that has always got me, and if you thought you needed a lawyer or representation, you're trying to avoid it for the most part at all costs. But that's in a criminal situation, unless you have something that's being disputed by someone. So if someone says, I'm suing your business entity, then, it's not as bad. Can you explain why it's important for someone to form a business or a corporation if they are starting to do work that is independent of another person, say, not going and punching a clock?
Yeah, here's the example I would like to give. I am not that skilled at marketing. I like to think that I've read enough books and understand the concept, and I know theoretically what should happen, but the implementation of it, I don't always get done right? I don't do it very well.
Okay.
And so as much as I study it, as much as I, go out there, I really don't implement the actions of marketing very well. So then I need somebody to help me who knows what they're doing, right? I need somebody to guide me through the process to say, okay, you need to do this. It may sound simple, but the implementation of it is very different. So that same concept with anything, right? Everything sounds simple, right? It always sounds simple to just do it in corporation or do it LLC. And I hear people say, oh, always do a corporation or always do an LLC. Well, always doesn't apply in the legal realm. It doesn't. There's always a bunch of ifs, ands, and buts. In the legal realm, you always have gray areas. There's nothing black and white about pretty much anything. So therefore, you have to understand that there's a lot of things that you may not be accustomed to, that you may not see, that you may not be around, that somebody else who's been in that space knows and understands. So that's why it would be important to have someone to speak to about it. And then the second part of that would be, why would you not want professionals on your team? Why would you not want to have people around you that know more than you, right? I always look to have people that are smarter than me, that know more than me, that understand things better than I do, so they can teach me and I can become smarter. And I think that as business owners, we should always be searching for that.
No, one of the, that was great information. What I was really getting at was most people, particularly if you're in the middle class of America, you go to a job or you ascend to a job of some sort. But then at some point, some people have this drive to be their own boss or to own and feed other people. Why do they need to form a corporation or form an LLC or form an LLP in order to be in business?
Well, you don't have to. I mean, obviously, if you, nobody's forcing you to do that, right? You don't have to. There's sole proprietorships where, the entity itself is not separate and apart from you as a business owner. Why you would want to have a distinct entity, right, is really for liability purposes and tax purposes. And those are the reasons why you would want to separate yourself, your individual self, from your business. So I do trainings on that. I have an e-course that people go and go through and buy and stuff like that about that, and talk about the various different entities and how they affect you individually and through your business, and why those things matter so that you can make a good decision about which one is the best for you.
Now that's awesome, because when I started my businesses, I literally did everything myself. And finally it was just, I knew all the pieces, but I didn't know where the pieces actually went. So I actually hired an accountant who was an attorney and just did everything for me. And then after I got all the stuff together, then I understood the hierarchy of the corporation and things like that. But for most Americans, they have no clue. They literally have no clue. Is there a place where someone could go to understand the foundations of business other than just YouTube?
Well, I don't think that there's one place, because this kind of information is all over the web, right? I mean, you can Google corporations and you'll probably get like 150,000, articles. And I've written, everybody writes, a bunch of attorneys will write. They'll talk to you about the various different entities and all of that kind of stuff. So there's all in classes you can take. I mean, there's a whole bunch of information that you can get just from the web. The thing I would say is that when you do that, you kind of get information overload, right? You have so much information coming to you that you can't figure out left from right. And so what helps is to go speak to a professional, because then they can tailor that information to you and what you're doing. So I know sometimes I see people in groups, business groups, will say, should I do an LLC and a corporation? And somebody go, well, you should do a corporation. That's what you should always do. Or you should always do an LLC. And my thing is, what are you trying to do? Because what you're trying to do may dictate whether an LLC or a corporation is better. It might dictate whether a partnership is better. Because each of those entities have their own little quirks. And things that work well for one type of business, but may not work well for another type of business. So there is no always.
Cool. Now I'm going to ask you this personal question. So if I wanted to start a business in Michigan, even though I'm in Indiana, could you handle that for me?
Yeah. So usually business entity formation is not something that's considered the practice of law. I know I'm probably upsetting a lot of attorneys right now. That entity formation, that's why you have things like LegalZoom and all this kind of stuff that they can do at all of those places, because it's not considered the practice. So I've formed entities in different states. But to say that too is that to know that each state has their own regulations around their business entities, and what may be true in Indiana is not necessarily true in Michigan. And so I think that's important mostly for the business owner to understand that. Don't think that it's going to be the same, and that all of the regulations that are in one state are not going to be different in another state.
Awesome. So do you have any basic tips that the billionaire lifestyle audience should know? Just basic, practical, or just some information that says, this is what I always tell people?
Sure. So what I always tell people is, I think one of the things that I mentioned before is to think out 5 years, right? Don't think about right now. Think about 5 years. So if you are starting your business, or even if you've been in a business for a while, you got to put together some strategy, some plan to get to where you want to be. And you think that out 5 years. So your wildest dream in 5 years, where could you be? What do you want to achieve? And you build your business around that, because trying to go back and fix it is going to cost a lot more than you building it right now, right? It's more beneficial to you to build it right now, so you have the space to grow within it, as opposed to doing something small. So that's the first thing. The second thing I say is, don't operate in a bubble. And that does not mean go ask weirdos on Facebook, about, what you should do about your business and things like that. That means get some real advice from people who know what it is that they're doing. And it may not necessarily be a lawyer or an accountant or whatever else, but, people who've been there in your industry, get to understand your industry. That's really important. And then lastly, get your professionals in line. Even if you can't afford to hire an attorney full time, you should be able to afford one consultation. You should at least go and take an hour with an attorney and go sit down and understand what it is you're doing. Go sit down with an accountant, understand what it is that you need to do. If you need to get them in the same room, do it. I often will meet with my clients' accountants and we'll all sit down together and talk. So I do that all the time. So those are things, get your professionals, and they can be your team. They can be your board. They can help you together make good decisions. And that's what you should be thinking about.
Awesome. Where can people find you? All of your Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you have, give it up.
Okay. So you can find me on Facebook at CEO Effect. That's CEOEFFECT. You can also go to Twitter, which is the CEO Effect, which is THECEOEFFECT. On LinkedIn is my name, Shahara Wright. So it's SHAHARA, last name WRIGHT. So you can find me easily on LinkedIn. And last but not least, you can go to my website, theceoeffect.net. That's THECEOEFFECT.net.
So I'm connected with you. I'm not letting you go. I'm letting you know that, right?
Yes, I'm glad. I'm happy about that.
I'm not letting you go. So if you ever have anything that you need to promote or put out, I'm here for you, or whatever you need. If you say, hey, Emmett, get down to Texas. I got something going on.
I will do that. I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to replay this when you tell me you can't do it. I'm going to replay this. I'm going to be like, no, you said you was going to come.
Well, thank you so much. I think this has been very enlightening for some people, including myself. And it's important for this information to get out because so many people, and I use the word ignorant because I use it on myself a lot, when I simply do not know something, and you don't know what you don't know until someone brings it to light or something happens. But and one of the things about this planet or this country is ignorance of the law is no excuse of breaking or confusing the law. So it's important to have someone like you, at least where they can touch base and ask some questions. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And ladies and gentlemen, remember this. When you look in the mirror, there is a face staring back at you. That face is the face of beauty. It is a unique 1 in a billion beauty. That's what makes you part of this movement, which is the billionaire lifestyle, because there's no one exactly like you. Even if you have a twin, they're not exactly alike. Here's what you need to do. You need to appreciate love and just be included with that person that's in the mirror, which is you. That means love yourself, because if you love yourself, then it's easy for you to be in love and show love to someone else, which will spread. It's infectious. And that is the simplest thing I can give you. If you don't feel love, if you feel like this world doesn't love you, I'm going to put this out there to you. I want you to think about me, think about my voice, and I want you to hear this. I love you. Until next time, peace.